I learnt about the call 24 or 25 hours ago yesterday, and I was invited to meet with President Nelson, and we sat together and talked, and then there was a extraordinarily solemn or sober, sacred moment when he paused and extended the call. In terms of my feelings, my response to this call, it's just a day ago, and since the very moment of that call, I've been extremely engaged in other things that were already in place. This assignment today to be in BYU, Hawaii, and I'm actually very grateful in many ways for this assignment to not let me get too self-focused. But of course, it's an extraordinarily weighty sense, because I have at least some good idea of what I need to become and how I need to be refined to be the kind of servant that you need to be in this kind of responsibility. And I know I have a long way to go. Fortunately, it seems, I have time, and I'm sure a lot of help. And for that, I'm very grateful. The sense of brotherhood as the brand new member of the Quorum was an extraordinary blessing, and it was embraces, close, strong, just the very essence of welcome, some with words and some without, but the intensity of love I felt for them was extraordinary and utterly overwhelming. I joined the church in my mid-20s. I was introduced to it first by members, wonderful members, who I just loved and admired so much. They were the embodiment of the gospel. They, when they talked about the plan of happiness that we all embraced, they looked like they were talking about a plan of happiness. They were the embodiment of joy and sort of living manifestation of Christ's love for the people around them. And that's what kept me going, even as I found myself resistant to some of the things they were teaching and some of the things they believed. And so I'm just so grateful to them and for their kindness as we talked together and as I learned about a loving Father in heaven and his Son who's taken every mortal pain and trouble upon him. And I learnt about that in the sweetest of settings. And of course, we wish that everybody could come to that understanding. And I think my own struggle with that informs how I look at part of what we think of in terms of sharing the gospel. And for some, it's not a struggle, but for others, it is. And I'm so very grateful for that experience that I had. When we think about the youth on this campus, the young adults on this campus, and really young adults the world over, one of the things that we read and we observe is that they're an anxious generation. So it is said, it's been heavily studied, and there seems to be more anxiety than worry than any of us would like to see around. And if I could remove one thing from them, it would be that sense of worry that many carry. So if I had a wish for them, it would be that they could see our belief in a loving Father in heaven and Savior as the antidote to this anxiety, as the way to navigate out of it, to understand our mortal stage in life as this tiny moment in our eternal existence, and therefore to worry far less. And I see the core of our doctrine as the core of the response to so much of this worry and anxiety. I have to say, I'm thrilled here today to see so much joy and exuberance too, and the joyful gospel being lived. And so we'll certainly encourage that by our young faithful friends. And I've reveled in that too. So we have those two and everything in between. When I think about the Saviour's example of looking after those on the margins, those who hurt, those whose pains are not understood, the hungry, the lonely, the downtrodden, I'm grateful to belong to the church that is feeding more this year than last, is clothing more this year than last year, is digging wells, finding children with malnutrition, and people in war-torn parts of the world or fleeing from war-torn parts of the world, and extending our reach in that department. This is following the Saviour's example. And I'm so grateful, and I salute our people who in small personal ways and in the big institutional ways go and find these people on the margins and beyond the margins and do our best to take care of them. I'm just so grateful. It was very interesting speaking at this university today, because what I realized last night was the thoughts that I had prepared to share with our wonderful young friends here, that was the talk that I need now. And that's what's different about this week to last week. This is a talk that's been working on for several weeks. But what I realize is I've needed it in its preparation, in its core elements and thoughts, and I need that finished talk, and it needs to be a set of invitations that I need to live by. And that's what strikes me as what's different today versus speaking somewhere last week. I've been blessed with some stepping stones to help me start on my journey here. When I think about moving forward in this service, I think about the apostles I've known. I think about the example of the Savior, that there is a way to find peace and joy even in troubled times, and if times are good, they can be better, and that we can find that joy, and that there's a path for doing so. That I relish is the opportunity to explore that role and to hopefully become somewhat effective in helping people discover the light and joy of our loving Father in heaven and Savior.